All right, Brian, I know what week it was last week. It was week 11, and a lot's been going on.
I think you started every show so far with what week was it again? So I'm glad you know what week it is this time.
Well, I was listening to a podcast, and they said week 11, and I just said to myself, week 11, week 11, week 11. And yeah, now I know, and I didn't want to be like, oh, what is it? So yeah, it was a very eventful week. I feel like it was really high scoring, and there was a lot of big games. Like we had the Bills, Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, Chargers, Bengals. Like those are probably the biggest games.
Even the Thursday night game, Eagles, Commanders. Like that was a big game, just for a prove it game for the Commanders that they could stick with the top of the division. Bears Packers was a big game just from like a rivalry standpoint. It had a crazy finish. Let's see what else. Those were probably the Jets Colts was kind of an elimination game for the Jets. That was another big one. Seahawks 49ers, like that was another big game. There was a lot of really good games this weekend. It's being a Bengals fan, it's fun these weeks when you don't have to watch your team play during the noon, or I guess noon my time, noon and 3 o'clock windows. So you can sit there, like literally sit there and enjoy just all the football, get the quad box going. I'm starting to get into the quad box the last few weeks with the Bengals playing in prime time. And it's, I'm getting used to it. It's kind of hard to watch because there's like so much going on and you have to constantly change the volume, but it's been a pretty cool experience. The first one I think I want to talk about a little bit, and I feel like we have to, is Chiefs Bills, and just kind of general thoughts. I think a lot of us had the Bills winning that game. I mean, I know I did going into it. It was a game that I anticipated them to win. It feels like they beat the Chiefs a good amount in the regular season always.
Always. And I think they're undefeated in the regular season.
Against each other. The Chiefs don't even care. Like they don't even care. It's because they know that it doesn't matter, because they know that once the playoffs come around, they have the Bills number. And I think that's why no one really, talks about Josh Allen as someone who can beat Mahomes, is because he can't do it in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, but he does it in the playoffs. It's usually not his fault. That's the thing. It's kind of like the whole Burrow situation. It's Josh Allen does what he needs to do, and then the defense lets him down, or there's a drop or something along those lines. But I feel like the Chiefs, I feel like they could have done more. I feel like they were like not showing everything that they have. But I've heard some people say that, but also, what was I going to say? Oh, I think it's good for the Chiefs to lose a game like this. Mm-hmm. I don't because like in college basketball, if like a team's undefeated going into like the NCAA tournament, people are always like, well, they should lose a game just so they know, or just so they have more motivation. And I think that's bullshit. I think you need to lose a game organically, or as organically as possible. And I think this was a really good loss for the Chiefs. Like I feel like both teams took like tremendous positivity out of this matchup, because like you said, the Bills usually win this regular season, and the Chiefs kind of take care of business. And if they played again in the playoffs, who are you going to bet on?
Chiefs.
Yeah. See,
1,000%. And it's just, I don't think you can bet the other way until you see it happen that way.
Exactly.
And, I think to your point, it is similar to kind of like the whole Burrow situation, but this is a big game from seeding standpoint. Now it knocks the Chiefs down one peg. So they're one game away from the Bills. So if they end up tying, they'll have that head-to-head, which is huge. It hasn't really mattered in previous years because the Bills have kind of lost a game or two down the stretch that they shouldn't have. But I don't disagree with you with needing a loss. Like the Chiefs have had this like weird magical run of not losing games, and they showed it in like while the game was going on. They've won, I think they won 15 in a row, and 12 of them were one-score games. Like that's insane that you won 12 of 15 and 12 of them being one-score games. Like it's unbelievable that they were able to do that. So they were going to lose at some point. Like we've all seen them this year. They haven't looked like the greatest, team in the NFL. Like Lions, I think most people would agree with, look like the best team in the NFL, even though they weren't undefeated and the Chiefs were undefeated. I don't think it's a bad loss. Like I don't think the Chiefs are coming out of that feeling like any way, shape, or form. I don't think Chiefs fans are feeling super down on themselves because they've seen this story so many times.
I mean, they're 9-1.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
they're 9-1. Yeah. I mean, like that's what a great. You would say a 9-1 start every year.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't expect to win. You can't expect to go 17-0 every year.
No.
Only two teams have done that.
And I also love like every single time, as soon as the NFL, there's no longer an undefeated team, the Miami Dolphins from whatever it was 1971, they always like tweet out a picture of like these guys who are 95 years old now, like drinking a glass of bourbon or something. I don't know, it just cracks me up.
Yeah.
But I loved going for the 4th and 2. Like, I love that mindset of, hey, we can kick a field goal here to go up 5, or let's just put the nail in the coffin and end the game. I do love that. I think if it goes the other way, you might see some criticism of, hey, they should have just kicked a field goal because then the Chiefs can go down and kick a field goal to win the game. But I think in today's NFL, teams are going to put up points, and you can't be scared of you got to trust your offense to go out and win you the game. And when you have Josh Allen, who's a freaking freight train back there, I think it makes a ton of sense. So I loved it. And I think even if they didn't get it, I think it would have been the right call.
Especially when Patrick Mahomes is on the other side too.
Exactly.
Like, you can't give him an opportunity to win the game. You know, you have to make it so the clock wins. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean that game was, kind of everything. The Bills are like America's team right now.
Yeah.
So
them and the Lions, both of them, I think are America's. Yeah.
yeah. It's very interesting.
I think to your point, if push came to shove, they play each other in the playoffs, I'd put my money on the Chiefs, but I don't feel as strongly about the Chiefs as I have in years past.
Yeah, but people said that last year.
I know.
They were so much worse last year, weren't they? Like 7-5.
I think they were like 7-5 or 7-4. Offense was like I think there was at one point there was a chance that they were not going to make the playoffs, if I remember.
Yeah,
there was a chance for them to lose the division, not make the playoffs, and then they went on a little run at the end, and I think they lost the Raiders on.
I just don't think they're putting everything out there.
Yeah, and they'll get Pacheco back. I think Rashee Rice is done for the year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there's a chance he comes back. But I think they'll get Pacheco back next week, which will be a big help. And I think Hopkins has been a good solution. So
100%.
Yeah, great game. Next one that I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit was this wasn't like the game of the week or anything, but Bears Packers. Like living in Chicago, like the Chicago area, obviously I have family who are Bears fans. And you see all these reactions from it cracked me up. All the reactions from Bears fans all over X and Instagram and stuff with, man, they're just cursed. There's something like
brutal.
Something about the Packers playing against the Bears. It's unbelievable.
Brutal.
I mean, what is it? I saw some stat they haven't won in over 2,000 days against the Packers. I'm actually gonna look it up right now.
That's insane. I mean, they've lost in like the two worst ways you could possibly lose: a blocked field goal, and then a Hail Mary.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
This year. So the last time the Bears beat the Packers was December 16th, 2018.
That's wild.
That is absolutely insane.
And I'm sure Aaron Rodgers was probably not playing.
Actually, I can check. I think I can check the box score. He might have been. I don't know, but let's see. I mean, he was part of the team, but I don't know if he was playing or not. But
is there not a box score?
No, it just gives me like. Here we go. Let's see that. Yeah, he played.
Okay.
274 passing yards. It was him versus Mitch Trubisky. That must have been Mitch Trubisky's rookie year.
It's probably one of Mitch Trubisky's like freak games where.
Was that you know what? That was the year the Bears that he had that weird year where they made the playoffs because he played unbelievable for that one. They won like 10 games.
I remember in fantasy, like he scored like 40 points 2 weeks in a row, and everyone's like, "Is this guy the greatest quarterback ever?"
Everyone's freaking out. Yeah, but so I thought that was we don't need to get too deep into the game. I wanted to touch on it. Feel bad for Bears fans. A lot of bad losses this year. A lot of bad losses and just bad luck in general. I think they do need to move on from Matt Eberflus. I think it's time. I get waiting to the end of the season. I know they got rid of their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, a few weeks ago, but I do think it is time to move on. He is dead last in the NFL in one-score games. He's like 2-14 in one-score games. Second to last is Zach Taylor, which doesn't surprise me either. So,
well, can we segue to that game?
Yeah, we can segue to that game. Yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but just honestly, it's similar to the Bears. I actually texted some of my family and said, "Hey, who has worse luck? Do you think, Bears fans or Bengals fans? Like, it's got to be one of the two worst bottom. You include the Browns and the Jets, maybe the
Panthers.
four. Who was that one?
Panthers.
Yeah, like bottom 5 teams to cheer for. Like from a luck standpoint, from a organizational standpoint." It's just I can't do it. It's just heartbreaking. I saw some stat today that the Bengals had a 70% chance to win with under 5 minutes left against the Chiefs, both Ravens games, and the Chargers games. And that's your difference between 8-3 and 4-7. Do I think they're a 4-7 team? I don't. Do I think they're a good team? I don't. And
it's the best 4-17 of all time.
It's just the Joe Burrow stats are unbelievable. I know I was sending Mike just a million stats after the game. I couldn't sleep. I was doom scrolling on Sunday night after that game, and
you were feeling it, dude.
I was struggling, and it is what it is. Nothing like the season is gone. They need to win out to make the playoffs. They're not a team that's going to make any noise in the playoffs, regardless if they make it or not. So, hoping the rest of the season doesn't come through with any injuries, but that's the big takeaway. Ja'Marr Chase, I hope he wins the Triple Crown. He's on pace to win the Triple Crown. Joe Burrow, most touchdown passes, most yards. He's having a great season. I just feel bad for those guys when they pan over to them and you see their faces on the sidelines and just absolutely demoralized. But from the Chargers point of view, I think this was a really good win for them. They were coming in 6-3. I think people took them seriously, but they hadn't really played a great offense. They were giving up like 13.5 points per game all year, but the best offense they played was Arizona. And they lost like 17-15, or it was one of those weird score games. So they played a top 5 offense in the NFL in the Cincinnati Bengals, and they said it on the broadcast. They knew the Bengals were going to put up points. The Bengals got off to a really slow start. The defense played great, and then they kind of blew open, and they were able to win a game when they gave up 27 points. And Justin Herbert looked great, albeit against probably the worst defense in the NFL, and with some missed field goals helping out there at the end of the game, 2 fourth-quarter missed field goals. But I think this is a big one for the Chargers. I think they've pretty much locked themselves into a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to catch the Chiefs for the division by any means. But I do think like it's just a super well-coached team that is playing hard together as a team. And that goes a long way. That's how you get to the playoffs, and that's how you make a run in the playoffs. So I do think there was some potential fraud for the Chargers, depending on how this game went. I think they lived up to it, putting up 34 points and winning.
I will say the Bengals are the best team they've beat.
Probably, yeah.
By far, because their wins consist of Raiders, Panthers, Broncos. I guess the Broncos look kind of good now, but
they did, yeah.
Saints. Did I ever say that? Browns and Titans and Bengals. Those are their wins, and they've lost to good teams. They lost 20-10 in Week 3 against the Steelers. They lost 17-10 Week 4 against the Chiefs, and they lost 17-15 against the Cardinals. Yeah. So, I mean, their best win is the Bengals again, but they have a pretty tough schedule coming up.
They do.
Ravens next week, then the Falcons. We'll get to the Falcons in a second.
We don't talk about it. Yeah.
Then the Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos. Then they finish with the Patriots and Raiders. So they have a good 4-week stretch, but they kind of have an easy schedule, man. And I texted you before they played the Bengals, and I said they haven't beaten anyone good. They've only beaten bad teams, and that's kind of what like Miami did last year. So and I understand they're like a young team, and they're up and coming, but I mean, you can only play your schedule, so we'll see. But it is a fun team,
and it's one of those things that, like, to your point, you can only play your schedule. The thing that worries me is the offense a little bit. They went up against, again, arguably the worst defense in football. From like the Bengals rank out as the worst in pretty much every category, or bottom 3 or 4 in every category, and you're able to put up 34 points. Only 10 in the second half, I think, though, because Bengals had that big comeback, so they were able to figure something out against the Chargers. And to your point, when you pointed to those 10 points against the Chiefs, it's a good defense. Some of those tougher teams that they played, they didn't put up, they were only letting up 17 points, 15 points, and still losing. I do think, but that's why this game was so important for them, because it was a better offense. Can you keep up with this offense and win the game? Again, albeit a bad defense. And why it was so important, because the stretch is so difficult. They can easily drop 2 or 3 games in the stretch. So getting that Bengals win was huge for their playoff hopes. If not, they were right there with the Bengals. They were a game. Bengals were a game behind them in the playoff seeding. Now they have 2.5, 3 games ahead of them. So it was a big game for them. They needed to win it. They won it. Better coach team, better team won, and it's one of those teams that next year will be one of the favorites, I think, in the Super Bowl. Like, give them another year to develop some of these guys and get some more pieces, because it's essentially the same team they had last year. They didn't really make any wholesale changes. Besides,
they don't have any weapons.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Get Justin Herbert, T. Higgins or something, and then
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one that I've seen that one going around a lot. T. Higgins hit them or the Patriots, I think he'd be a perfect fit with the Chargers.
The only thing is, you're going to pay him like 13, 14, 15 million to play 5.
26, 27 probably at this point.
For T. Higgins?
Yeah, that's why the Bengals won't pay him. He's probably
to only play 5 games?
Yeah, he's probably in that Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle price range, where they were in that 25, 26, 27 million. That's that's what the Bengals won't pay. They don't want to pay that much, which is why they're not, But yeah, and that's the thing. Do you pay that much to have him sit out 5-6 games a year? That's what makes it tough.
Damn, man. Damn. Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty cool though if you need to get Herbert somebody, because who's his best weapon? J.K. Dobbins.
Well, J.K. Dobbins, what's his name? Quentin Johnson or whatever. First round pick from last year, who kind of sucked last year. He's been good this year. Ladd McConkey, he's been pretty good. He had over 100 yards against the Bengals.
I mean, Quentin Johnson only had 2 catches last night.
Yeah. I also don't think Ladd will ever be a number 1.
No, he's a slot guy.
He's kind of slot. Well, I think he's a good player, but he can't. He's not going to be a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Those kind of guys.
Like a Wes Welker.
Yeah, which is honestly.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Everyone could use a Wes Welker.
Yeah, no, I agree. I couldn't agree more.
But great game. I will say the Bengals have given some fantastic primetime games, albeit in heartbreaking fashion for their fans, but they've given some great games.
That game is awesome.
I can't wait for football season to be over. That's what.
Can we talk about really quick? Can we talk about the Falcons?
Yeah. Worst read of the week by far.
I mean, holy shit, dude.
Yeah. And again, this is another, you go up against the Broncos team who aren't supposed to have a good offense. Bo Nix has really played a lot better the last few weeks, but they have a fantastic defense and they're well coached. And sometimes those teams, that's a good recipe for success. Good coach and good defense. I couldn't even watch the game. It was brutal.
That division is so weird. The Falcons leading at 6-5. Then you have the Bucs, who are basically calling people on their couch to play at 4-6, and then you have the Saints winning 2 in a row. They're not playing anyone, but still, it
is a weird division.
I mean, they played the Falcons, so it's just wild. Like that, just that division's just in shambles.
And to only put up 6 points, 0 in the second half is
embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. And Atlanta's kind of had a few of these games throughout the year where they just kind of haven't showed up. Against the Seahawks, they lost 34-14. They played hard against the Chiefs. Even last week, losing to the Saints, that's a game they should not lose based on talent alone. They're going to be one of those teams that you never know what you're going to get. And it's the Kirk experience. That's kind of how it's been a lot of his career.
But he looks so good. Yeah.
There's times where he looks amazing. There's times where he looks like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Definitely.
Yeah. That's kind of how I describe Daniel Jones. But is Daniel Jones Walmart Kirk Cousins?
I mean, he might be. Daniel Jones, that whole conversation, that whole Daniel Jones, him getting benched for the injury guarantees on his contract, they don't want him to get hurt.
This is Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, and it was also Russell Wilson last year. Same thing. Yeah. They benched him. that's where you get to the point as a fan where you understand why players sometimes hold out. Like that's what kind of brought up that. Like I thought about that whole conversation again in terms of they can prevent you from getting, like organizations can prevent you from getting your money if they really want to. So it puts it a little bit in perspective. Like I'm gonna fight for everything I can get from the player side of it. So it's a business and it goes both ways. But I agree that they should bench him. And like at the end of that, I don't think you should play Daniel Jones anymore. He's not your future quarterback. He's not going to be your future quarterback. Get a good draft pick next year. Get a top 3 or 4 pick and start over. I think you don't have a choice at this point.
Yeah. And then anything else? Any other games that stuck out? I mean, the Lions handled that pretty well.
I mean, the Lions are just the Lions. They're a freaking freight train. Colts, Jets. Colts, Jets. And we can, if we want, we can get into a little bit of the.
Hold on. Let's wait on Colts, Jets really quick. You were so right on the 49ers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was another good one. Yeah, 49ers.
You called the hangover. They just lost a weird game against Seattle.
It's a game they don't lose. That's a game they typically never lose. Yeah. I think they have some issues on defense. Brock Purdy's playing really well, and their pass game is working very well. I mean, obviously, I think obviously the injuries play a role, and that's always going to be the case in the NFL. But when you go to the AFC or the NFC Championship game 3 out of 4 years, go to the Super Bowl 2 out of 4 years, and you don't come out with a win, like it just
weighs on you.
Like it's exhausting. You're playing 4 or 5 weeks longer. You feel the pressure that you need to get back, and you don't know if you'll get back again. And I saw some stuff today about Shanahan potentially getting fired, and I think that's a step too far. Like one of the best coaches in football. Like these down years happen. Like you're not gonna be. It's so hard to. Everyone wants to replicate the Patriots and that kind of what the Chiefs are doing now. It doesn't happen. This is like it happens. This is 2 times it's happened, and so I think that's crazy that they're talking about firing him. But yeah, I don't think they have it this year, and I think they can find a way to get in the playoffs. But they have Packers this week, Bills. They still have the Rams and Lions. Like they have 4 really tough games on the schedule that could potentially keep them out of the playoffs. Like I could very easily see them going 9-8.
And they're last in their division right now,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
crazy. And that's the other thing. It's a tough division. So losing those close games like that. I mean, so yeah, you got 6-4, 5-5, 5-5, 5-5. What a division! That's gonna be fun.
That's coming insane.
Down to the end. Yeah. But that final drive was a good drive. But Gino, I did watch that. I didn't watch a ton of that game because I was watching
my guy.
The Chiefs. Yeah, it's your guy, Gino.
guy.
How do you feel about the outlook for the 49ers the rest of the season?
You know what, man? I just think they're too well coached and they have too much talent to not get at least 2 of those games. And I don't think the Seahawks are that good. I don't think the Rams are that good. And I think the Cardinals are like that pesky team, but I don't think they're that good either, even though they've looked good. If I had to bet my money on like who's going to make the playoffs out of those teams, I would bet it on the 49ers.
Yeah, I do agree just because the pedigree. Maybe the only one for I would definitely over Seattle. I know Seattle just beat them. The only one I would maybe put over them is the Rams, just because they also have the coaching and the quarter. Like they have Matt Stafford and they have the quarterback. So I agree with you. I don't think they're that good, but them getting their weapons back has made a big difference. They've gone a little bit over the run.
100%.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't even include the Cardinals in that. So they play Packers, Bills, Rams, Lions, Cardinals. 5 very difficult teams. The other 2 are Dolphins and Bears. So Dolphins are kind of.
I mean, those teams aren't
no
bad though.
No,
the Dolphins going to punch you in the mouth offensively, and then the Bears are going to punch you in the mouth defensively.
Correct. That's what I mean. So they do not have a cupcake on their schedule the rest of the season. So they don't have that game where it's like, all right, I'm playing Cleveland, I'm playing the Raiders, I'm playing the Giants. Like they don't have that. So that's going to be a fun one to watch the rest of the season.
Damn, that's a tough schedule. That makes the Charger schedule compared to that is so easy.
Right. Like that's what it is. Like when you talk about this sometimes, especially when you're not a fan of the team, you don't really know what's coming up unless you look at it and say, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like I can see why there's some panic with that team right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So we'll go Jets real quick. Jets are dead.
They're officially dead.
And I was cheering for the Jets because it would have helped the Bengals out if they would have beat the Colts. And when they kicked that field goal, it was 4th and this is what I'm saying. Like, where you're not even going against Mahomes or anything, but they had a 4th and 2 around the 20-yard line. They get the first down. They could essentially end the game. There was about 2 minutes left. They could probably run the clock, end the game. They tried to do a hard count, didn't go for it, kicked a field goal, and Anthony Richardson goes right down the field, rushing touchdown. He just bulldozes his way into the end zone. And then there was like 30 seconds left, and it was the most piss poor drive I've ever seen. It was like, I can't remember if I was watching it. I was sack, fumble. Like it was terrible. And then obviously they fired their general manager today. So Jets are in complete disarray, and it's tough to watch.
It's interesting because I've been listening to a bunch of stuff about it the last few days, and like the owners of it, the Johnsons,
yes,
like Woody Johnson and his brother, it might be like Chris Johnson, something like that. So Woody Johnson used to be an ambassador for Donald Trump when he was in office in 2016 for 4 years. So he wasn't in full control of the team, but when Trump wasn't reelected, he went back to his like ownership duties, like main ownership duties for the Jets. And I think I heard Adam Schefter say this, but the reason so no one really liked Saleh, right? Even before this year, people were out on him. Correct?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't know if people were out on him, but yes, there was definitely, because of what happened last year.
There was a lot of people. Yeah. There was a lot of people saying, "Why did you bring this guy back?"
Yes,
a lot of people were saying that. So a lot of people were saying, "Why did you bring him back?" And then they end up firing him. And then I heard that Woody Johnson said, "Like, I didn't hire you; my brother hired you."
Oh,
yeah. So that was one thing. The second thing was their GM. What was his name? It doesn't matter. Their GM. This was the last year of his contract, and I think Adam Schefter said that he might not even have returned if at the end of the year, even if they offered him an extension.
Yeah,
he said Douglas. He said he didn't know if he was even going to want that position back again. So then you sent me a tweet saying Aaron Rodgers fired Saleh, traded for Davante Adams, and fired the GM. Now, people wanted Saleh gone. The owner straight up told him, "I didn't hire you."
Yep.
Who wouldn't want Davante Adams for a 3rd or 4th round pick, right? And also, the GM didn't build anything around him. And then on top of that, on top of all those points, once you fire your head coach in the middle, not even the middle of the season, the beginning of the season, how do you expect to go on a Super Bowl run with a guy who, has to put pieces together that he might be underqualified for? So like for people to say like Aaron Rodgers did all this, I'm not saying he didn't have a hand in it, but I don't like when people say like, oh, he did this, he did that. This isn't basketball. This is a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. Like, I don't think this is an Aaron Rodgers thing. I think there's a role with Aaron Rodgers. I think it was the entire situation was obviously failed. Like trading for Rodgers, bringing him in, some of the personnel decisions they made with bringing Rodgers in was a fail. And I think that was, to your point, there was some pressure coming in, not only on Saleh, but on the GM, on Joe Douglas, on just the team in general for this to work. And it failed. And I think because it failed, it's not Rodgers. It's the whole situation failed and didn't go. It's not Rodgers pushing people out the door. Like I agree with you for sure. But I think just the overall failure of the team they assembled in this situation, because they kind of went for it. They traded for Rodgers. They made a bunch of moves, brought in some big pieces. He didn't do a terrible job in terms of drafting. Like they had some really good draft picks the last few years. But I did hear the same thing you heard when like he hasn't been it sounded like he hasn't even been making decisions the last like couple of months. Like in what they just the GM that they just fired, Joe Douglas. Like he was not the ones. This was something that was going to happen regardless. Once the season went south, like once Saleh got fired, sounds like this was going to happen anyway, and so they're getting it out of the way now so that they can go through an entire process and bring a GM at the start for scouting. Because a lot of times at the end of the season when these GMs get fired, free agency starts like a month after the Super Bowl, and then the draft's in April. Like it's so hard to get up to speed and like get on the same page as everyone. So I actually don't mind it, getting a head start on it. But man, the Jets, like, and I think it might be it's like a lot of these organizations that sometimes ownership's too involved in decisions that are made on day-to-day basis, and that's part of the problem. Like the
best organizations, you never hear about the owner.
Yeah, you hire football people to do their jobs, and you let them do their jobs. Like David Tepper, for example, his hands are in every decision that's made.
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones. Mike Brown.
And look at like organization like Green Bay. They don't even have an owner.
I know, right? Yeah.
And they're like a great organization.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Bears, another one. Like McCaskey family is super hands-on into the shit that they do. Like they make personal decisions. They don't make so it just, the whole situation stinks. Like I was kind of cheering for the Jets. Like I thought it would have been a cool story, and for it to crash and burn the way it did, I was not expecting.
Yeah, it blows my mind. I'm trying to think of like good organizations like 49ers, even the Rams. I would consider them a good organization. The Broncos.
Yep.
They just bring in football people and people who know about the sport. They don't want to play fantasy football.
Right. Think about the Commanders. They fired Dan Snyder, got booted out. They brought in a more of a group of people, not just a singular guy.
Collective,
they're letting people do their jobs, and it makes a huge difference. Like
huge difference.
This is what their livelihood. And if you're a GM and the owner has his hands in the stuff you're doing, are you going to go against the owner because he's your livelihood? No. Like if you feel like you go against what he says, you might lose your job. It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's a big deal, right?
It's like you hired me to do this job.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like so I used to bartend at this place in LA, and it was during COVID and right when everything started opening up. It's just an example. But like if you're a bartender, you know where all the bottles are in the well. And one day the GM came in and switched them all. And when I got there, they were all messed up. And I looked around, I'm like, who did that? Like, why did someone do this? And then he comes back around, he's like, oh, well, this is how you do this. I'm like, nah, I don't know where anything is. He's like, well, like sometimes when I get back here, I'm like, hey, you hired me to do this. Let me do this. Like, I want to be able to make the drink and not even look down to see what bottles I'm pulling.
Yep.
And it's the same thing in football and running an organization. Like, if you bring someone in to do a job, don't tell them how to do their job. Let them do their job. You gave them their trust. You're giving them millions of dollars to do all this bullshit. And so when you start micromanaging and getting in the way of everything, it like the whole Cowboys thing is unbelievable. Like he built that brand to the most popular brand in the world. Like that organization is worth so much money. And if he keeps this up, it's only going to go down.
Yeah, and like I think that's a very good point. Like he's a business guy. He built the business, but he needs to get his hands outside of the football aspect because he doesn't like it. Clearly, it's not working. Like he makes himself look like an idiot.
He is the Leroy Jenkins of that organization.
Well, it's like the whole. Yeah, I mean, he's a business guy, obviously, and like we've talked about Jerry a few times on this. Like he thinks he wins negotiations, but he waits till the last second and ends up giving them exactly what they wanted the whole time. But like he puts his foot down for no reason. And like the one that was hilarious to me was they've made Jerry's World like a destination. It's like players are working out and they'll have people tap on like the glass like they're in a zoo. Like, because they
sell tours.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, what is that? That is ridiculous.
That's insane.
That is insane.
It's so crazy.
But yeah, no, we weren't supposed to go on a ownership topic here, but I just thought with the news today and the Jets,
it's relevant.
Good to talk about. And I sent you that tweet because I knew it would get a little rise at the end and be something good for us to talk today.
It's just funny when people think like, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any say in anything, but he's probably the last guy that they call, be like, hey, we're going to do this. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he's probably informed. I think he's informed and he knows it's.
But he's not in the owner's room like, hey.
Correct. Yeah.
We got to get this guy out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting.
Especially when it's the guy who made the decisions to bring in a lot of the people that he wanted. Like, I don't think he would do that. You know what I mean? Like,
what do you mean?
Like, when he got traded there, they brought in Alan Lazard because.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they had a good relationship through some of that stuff.
Well, why wouldn't you? I think every quarterback should have a say, or should be informed of all your moves, because then you're like, you don't want to get to the point where like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were at the end of their careers together, like where they're almost just butting heads all the time. It's like, hey, why don't you come in? Let's figure this out,
Yep, and the quarterback's your biggest asset. It's your biggest chess piece. It's your biggest investment on every team, unless you're on a rookie contract or whatever. But it is your highest paid employee. It is, you're essentially your CEO of the actual football team. So it makes sense for them to be involved in football decisions. So last one I want to talk about real quick, Steelers.
Okay, go ahead.
You sure? Yeah, you good? Yeah. So last one real quick. Steelers. We haven't talked about them much this year just because they've been a good team, but they hadn't really played anybody. They kind of seemed like your same old Steelers, good defense, mediocre offense, going to muddle their way to 10 wins, 10-7, and make the playoffs as a wild card, not win the division. I think everyone kind of thought the Ravens had the division wrapped up. Not the case. Not the case at all. 8-2. Good wins against the Commanders and Ravens the last 2 weeks. They have the Ravens number. They've won 9 of 10. And I know we were just talking about it. Lamar's 1-5 now, or 1-4 against the Steelers. So it's one of the Steelers and Chiefs are the two teams that Lamar cannot seem to get his head around to beat. And, I think everyone has their kryptonite. There's always a team out there that gives you fits. But I looked at the scores from those 10 games. The Ravens have put up over 20 points like once. And they it's unbelievable how that's AFC North football. That's what it is defense and in the trenches. So just want to shout out Steelers, driver's seat for the division, which is crazy. 8-2, Ravens 7-4. Just crazy that they play each other again, I think in 2 or 3 weeks. So that'll be another big game. But if I had to put money down right now, I'd put it on the Steelers to win the division.
Yeah. I mean, the next 3 games are Browns, Bengals, Browns. So those could be 3 easy wins, and then they go Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs.
To end the season, yeah, it's tough.
And then they finish with the Bengals, and that game's the game's probably not going to mean much.
Yeah, it might. Yeah. They'll either be probably the second Ravens game is probably going to determine the division, so they'll probably know by then if they won the division, if they're playing for playoff seeding. But yeah, that game probably won't mean much. But to your point, 8-2, they could very easily be 11-2 after the next 3 games. That Bengals game is must win for the Bengals. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, just wanted to call that out. And then on that topic, Justin Tucker, man.
Well, yeah, but then you have Chris Boswell on the other side. But yes, the kickers, and especially Justin Tucker. So, okay, we were going to talk about this last week. Like, I brought it up to Brian last week saying, like, why are kickers so bad now? And it just keeps getting worse. And the first 5 weeks, everyone thought like a 55-yarder was a chip shot. And then every talk show was talking about they got to move the goalpost more narrow. Let's get rid of kickers. It's getting too easy. There's too much talent at this position. And in the last like 4 or 5 weeks, missing chip shots, getting kicks blocked.
This week was insane because I think I remember like texting you because we didn't it kind of just didn't naturally come up in our conversation last week, and we had a couple of topics we talked about, and we got to a point where and I think I texted you pretty early on in the early games, and I was like, well, I'm glad we didn't talk about it because this week has been insane. And I missed kicks left and right. Obviously Justin Tucker missed 2 that he normally wouldn't miss. They're longer, of course, and Pittsburgh's not an easy place to kick, but he's had a rough year. I think he was coming, I know at one point he was 1 for his last 6 or 7 from 50 plus yards. Evan McPherson for the Bengals obviously missed 2 kicks at the end of the fourth quarter that could have gave the Bengals a win.
Evan McPherson.
Yeah. I saw some, what was it? It was like they call him Money Mac. Can no longer call him Money Mac. They have to call him like, God, what was it? It was, I can't remember. It was so funny though.
Money broke Mac Mountain? No.
Yes, something along those lines. Yeah. But yeah, just the kicks throughout the game. There was missed kicks from 30 yards, 40 yards. And to your point, like it almost got old at the early part in the season. Every time someone would step up to a 50-yarder, they're like, man, these kickers, it does like, these are automatic now. Remember when these used to be tough? And it just feels like that's kind of flipped a little bit the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And God, what game was it? I know there was one game where someone had just missed 2, and then someone hit one. I think it was in the Patriots game, maybe hit it off the uprights from like 27, and it like ricocheted in. And I was like, "Oh
Boswell,
my God!"
You texted me that. You said Boswell just hit the upright and went in. Yeah. I'm looking at our text right now.
He went 6 for 6, so like he had a good game, but like it was like a 32-yarder that doinked off the upright.
Well, the week before, the Atlanta's kicker, Koo,
yes,
he missed 3 kicks, and then Jake Moody missed 3 kicks last week, and Deebo Samuel is getting into it with the long snapper. Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Like, shoved him or something. Just like it's just the kicking.
Was that 2 weeks ago? Was that 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 weeks ago.
I do remember that. Yeah, because he missed 2 field goals.
Yeah, he missed 3.
He missed 3. Holy shit.
Yeah, just in your point about Justin Tucker, I think he's like in the low 70% this year. He's like 17 or 16 or 17 for 22.
Yep. Here, let me actually pull it up. I just had it pulled up.
And that guy, I forget. I was listening to something today. They're saying Justin Tucker at one point was the Ravens' second best asset.
I 100% believe that.
No, he was.
Yeah.
I remember in fantasy drafts you get taken like round 10, which is unheard of.
Yeah, he'd always go super early. Yeah, and anytime you would kick against it, like he would, like it was automatic, and it's such a weapon to have that. If you know it's automatic, and you're not gonna have to worry about it. And
but not just automatic, like the ball went straight in,
dead straight.
I mean, the goalpost could have been as wide as the ball, and it would go through every time.
Let me see if I can find his field goal percentage real quick. Because I think you're right. I think he is 72.7%.
Yeah, that's insane. And he's like 90% for his career or something like that.
Yeah, 3 for 7 from 50 plus yards.
Wow.
Nuts.
I mean, he's always kind of struggled with that, but
let's see. His career is 90%, but up until this year it was obviously a lot higher. But yeah, he's 90% kicker for his career.
Damn.
And it's even funny, like seeing Ravens fans freak out. They're like I was seeing that, like Lassie, like memes, like take him out behind the woodshed. It's time to move on.
Oh my God.
Which is terrible, but like I was seeing all that stuff go around. Like it's time to let go. It's time to say goodbye.
That's brutal, man.
Yeah. So it is interesting, and I'm curious like what the actual stats are on it. And I would love to find them.
I would love to know the stats between week 1 to week 5 and from week 6 to week 11. I would love to see those stats. I've been trying to look, and I didn't want to go into like writing them all down because that would just be a whole thing. Yeah. But like even like Aubrey missed one, the first miss ever at home last night. So
it was only 40 yards. He slipped, but he did make a 64-yarder that they ended up not taking because of the penalty, which was also nuts. But there are still those guys. Like you still have like your Boswell's. He's had a great year. He's 96%, 97% this year. But they're really like
Jake Bates.
Like Bates has been good. But like Chris Boswell, groupie from New Orleans, McLaughlin's been good. But like other than that, like even Harrison Buckner's missed a few. Daniel Carson's they've only missed a couple, but like we're used to seeing
Buckner's out for a while now.
Yeah, he got hurt. They're like we're used to seeing these guys never miss, and it just I agree with you. It feels like we're at a point. Evan McPherson 36th in field goal percentage, solid. Yeah.
That's a tough one for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but like there was a point 2 years ago where the debate for best kicker was Evan McPherson or Justin Tucker, and look how quickly that changed. It's nuts.
Yeah, even like Jake Elliott missed.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other one. Jake Elliott on the Thursday night game. How many did he miss? He missed 2 and an extra point.
Yeah.
I think that's where it started, was Jake Elliott. That was the one I was thinking of where I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I texted you. I'm like, dude, he sucks.
Yeah.
And you're like, he used to be good.
He's 14 for 19 this year. 73%. Like, that's terrible.
That's crazy, man.
So, yeah, he missed 2 field goals and an extra point in that game. Nuts.
Wow. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's enough kicker talk.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our bets.
Yep. So, I'll let you do the honors. Why don't you go ahead?
Oh, well, no big deal, but your boy went 3-0 this week. Let's go. Brian went 1-2. And welcome back to reality.
Yeah, 1-2. First losing week of the season for me.
Can you read off what we bet on?
Yeah. So I had worst bet of the week, Falcons plus 2.5. I don't like. It's terrible.
That was part of our parlay too, and we flipped it. And oh my god,
terrible. Not even close. Bengals money line.
First drive of that game.
You knew it was over after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Sorry, keep going.
Bengals money line, obviously very close. Should have been a win there. That sucks. And then Rams Patriots over was a good one.
Yes, it was.
I felt pretty good about. That was a nice one. So I went 1-2, brings my record to 24-9 overall. I was thinking about it. Like, I could have a few losing seasons or losing weeks and still end up all right, I think.
Yeah.
All right, and then Mike went 3-0. He had Saints -1, which was a very, very easy win.
Oh yeah, brother.
Rams -4.5, another pretty easy win. I think Patriots made it a close game at the end, but that one was
garbage time.
That was a good one. And then Detroit -13, where I was kind of giving you some shit. It's 14-point spread, and I think it closed at 14, but when you took it, it was 13. And holy shit, the Lions just absolutely destroyed. Like it, that was nuts. They scored on 7 touchdowns on the first 7 drives. Like ridiculous.
Yeah, that was.
Doug Peterson's gonna get fired too for the Jets. Like that's just his team quitting on him.
Oh, so. I mean, if that team doesn't have Bill Belichick written all over for it.
Oh, for sure. Trevor Lawrence and Bill Belichick. Hell yeah.
He's going right. He's probably they're probably building his office right now.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So all right. So I get first pick.
You get first pick, and I'm doing a different strategy this week. So I don't know where I'm gonna go with these. So this one will be a little bit different for me.
Okay. I'm looking at the lines now.
It's a tough week. It is a tough week.
Yeah, there's not many great games. But my first pick, I'm gonna go Broncos -5.5 against the Raiders.
Okay, I like that. Broncos -5.5.
At -110.
-110. Okay, I like it. Is that just based on how the Broncos played last week?
Yes, and it's because the Raiders are so bad.
Yeah, Raiders are terrible. Are they on the road? I'm assuming, because I would figure that would be higher.
Yeah, they're on the road.
Yeah,
but there's so many Denver fans in Vegas. It's crazy.
Okay. All right, my first one. I'm gonna take your strategy with the Lions. I'm taking Lions -7.5 over the Colts.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, they're 7.5 point favorites on the road, which screams shitty pick. But I just after seeing what we saw last week, I don't believe in the Colts. I don't believe in it. I still don't believe it. He had a good game last week, and I think we talked about it last week. I think it's fantastic that he's playing again. They need to know what they have in him. But I mean, he's bound to have a turnover or two, and against the Lions, you turn the ball over twice, game's over. So
yeah, and the Colts defense is not good.
No, the Colts defense is not anywhere near good enough to keep that offense in check. So I'm gonna go Lions -7.5.
Okay, I'm gonna go for my second pick. Oh man, there's some of these I like.
Yeah, there's some good games. There's not as many good like matchups. There's a lot of big spreads, which tells you that there's not a lot of great games, but there's some that I like as well.
I'm going to go Eagles minus 2.5 over the Rams.
Okay. And I have that at minus 122.
Yep.
That just a don't believe in or just feel like the Eagles have figured it out and are going to go on a little run?
The Eagles are hot. If this was in Philly, it'd probably be like around 6.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of Philly fans in Los Angeles, so you're going to see a lot of green in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually you see a lot of opposing teams in the stadium for.
Yeah, transplant city. The Rams are relatively new to LA,
yeah.
so.
All right, man, there's 2 that I like, and I don't know which one I'm going to take. I'm going to go. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to go Vikings Bears over 39.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think the Bears have figured something out with this new offensive coordinator, and I think they played a lot better last week against the Packers. I don't really trust the Vikings right now. We haven't talked about them in a few weeks, but they're still winning. But it does not look like it did earlier in the season. Like they're kind of scraping out wins here. Not looking like the offense they looked like at the beginning of the year. But that being under 40, I just think is too appealing to take with some of the weapons that the Vikings have and some of the pieces that the Bears have. So I'm going to go Vikings Bears over. If it was like 42, I probably wouldn't take it. I just see this being like a 24-20-ish type of game. 21. So it's 21-18, something along those lines. So I'm going to take them. I hope that added up to 39.5. I don't know. I was doing quick math off the top of my head, but low 20s for both teams type of game.
I am torn between 2 picks right now. 3 picks, actually. I'm gonna tell you all 3 of them.
Or what we could do, we could take one of them. We could put the other 2 in the parlay.
Okay. I'll take the one I like the least then. All right, Kansas City minus 11 over the Panthers.
Okay. I think that's pretty solid. Panthers are so bad.
Revenge game,
Minus 108. Yeah, it's also just like Chiefs coming off a loss. Like they're gonna come out firing. I think they're gonna come out feeling pretty good.
Yeah, they're gonna screw. They're gonna screw around with them.
Yeah, and it's always hard to take the big spreads, but like when you have clear, like that was similar to the Lions game last week. Like there was clear difference in pedigree of those teams, so sometimes you can't be scared of it. All right, last one. I'm gonna go Buccaneers minus 5.5 over the Giants.
That's one of the ones I was looking at.
Tommy, like maybe Tommy DeVito brings some juice to the Giants. He did last year a little bit, but the Buccaneers, even with some of their I kind of bet against the Buccaneers for a few weeks there, and
Mike Evans might be back.
Huh?
Mike Evans might be back.
Yeah, he might be coming back, and Baker's playing great, and they played the 49ers really hard and the Chiefs really hard in those 2 games when I thought they had no chance. So I'm going to go Bucs minus 5.5.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito is not good.
No, he's not. They're tanking. The Giants are tanking. The Giants want to lose games. They want a top 3 pick so they can get the quarterback of their choice and move on from Daniel Jones. Like they do not want to win games. So I'm going to go, and that's minus 112. So I'll read through them again real quick. So I had Lions minus 7.5, Vikings Bears over 39.5. And then Bucks minus 5.5. And then Mike had Broncos minus 5.5, Eagles minus 2.5, and Kansas City minus 11.
Yes, sir. What was my record again?
So your record. So you went 3-0 this week to move your record to 16-14-1, which is pretty.
Let's go.
Hey, above 500. In gambling, sometimes that's all you need.
Comfortably. Above 500. All right, so the other game I was looking at was Miami minus 7.
Miami minus 7. Who are they playing?
Pats in Miami.
Yeah, man. Maybe it's just I'm a Drake May believer.
Dude, Drake May looks good.
He looks so good, and like their offense looks completely different than it did with Jacoby Brissett, obviously, because Drake May is a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. He can actually throw the ball,
and move.
But I don't hate that. If that moved to 6.5.
Well, let's make our parlay.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So, do you want to make it? We can include stuff we've used, or we can't include stuff we've used.
No, we can. Okay. I like the Bucks 5.5.
Okay, let's do Bucks 5.5.
Or do you want to? Should we? All right, we should try to make all these parlays plus 500 or more.
Okay, I like that. So let's see what we got. So we got Buccaneers minus 5.5.
Yeah.
We want Dolphins minus 6.5.
Go minus 6.
Minus 6, okay.
And then let's see, what's another good one? Do you like the Broncos 5.5? Do you like?
Let's see. I do like Broncos 5.5.
Eagles minus 2.5.
I like.
What about like?
Do you like the Lions minus 7.5 against the Colts?
Let's do 6.5
for the Lions.
For that one.
Lions minus 6.5. Let's see what this gets us to, because we're currently at plus 227. Yeah, Mike's feeling a little under the weather today.
Yeah, if you can't tell. Been sick for 2 weeks.
Plus 468. Let me move Dolphins back to 6.5 and see what that gets us. Where's the Dolphins?
Would you have it at 6?
I had it at 6. I think it'll be close to plus 500. 495.
I mean, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Okay, so we're running Buccaneers minus 5.5. We could also move the Bucks up to 6.5 if we think they're going to buy, or 6 if we think they're going to buy a touchdown. But Bucks
move that up to 6. Move that up to 6.
Let's move to 6. All right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So Buccaneers minus 6 against the Tommy DeVito.
There you go. Danny DeVito, what a guy.
All right. This gets us to plus 523. So Lions minus 6.5, Dolphins minus 6.5, Buccaneers minus 6, plus 523.
Boom.
Love it.
Yeah, there's not much NBA today because it's just really stagnant right now.
Mm-hmm. But big news in the NBA today.
What's that? Oh, Cavs. Yeah. The Cavs lost the first game.
Yep.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, who would have guessed that?
Who would have guessed that? I said last week their first loss is going to be come on November 19th, Tuesday. And it was a good game. I watched the end of it. They came back.
The end of it,
17
the end of it was right as we started, right? It was kind of ending right as we were starting the podcast.
Yeah. Like the last 30 seconds. Yeah. But third quarter they were down. Going into the third quarter, they're down 17. I think the biggest lead was I think pushing 30 for the Boston? Yeah, and then they came back, tied it up. I think they tied it up, or they were down 2. And Boston hung on. Boston's so good. I mean, you have to be afraid of everyone who touches the ball. Like Al Horford, having him as a stretch 5 is almost cheating, and then not even having Porzingis back yet is insane. But
Celtics think best 2 teams in the East though, by far.
Record wise, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in the East, because actually there actually has been some stuff going on in the NBA. But the Sixers had a full team meeting.
Yeah. Dude, they are a mess.
He had teammates calling him out because he's been late to not just practices, but to everything.
Who was it they called him out? I saw this.
Maxey.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Maxey, 24-year-old, just calling out the guy who won MVP last year.
2-11. The Sixers are 2-11.
Yeah, it's terrible. They signed Paul George. He barely plays. I just that organization. The reason why I'm not a Sixers fan is because that organization is just so bad. And Yeah, they're bad. The Bucks are so bad. Like Damian Lillard is not Damian Lillard.
Yeah.
Giannis has no help.
Last year too. Like he wasn't bad last year.
Yeah, but he was like every other night. He was good. The Warriors are still doing well. The Lakers are doing okay, but we'll see about them. What else? Zion's hurt. Shocker.
Yeah.
How long is he gonna be out? No one knows.
Yeah, he's out indefinitely, right?
Yeah, hamstring. That's brutal.
Yeah. He will always be kind of one of those what if guys. I feel like.
Yes and no. Like he's like. I never understood the hype. Like this guy's like 6'6", 6'7", and he can jump, but he can't shoot. He can dribble. He's just a big body who's very explosive. But like other than that, he's not like the greatest defender. He's just bouncy. But like he's too big for how explosive he is. You know, like every time he jumps, like all his ligaments and his muscles tear off the bone.
Right.
You know,
that's why he gets hurt all the time.
Yeah, and he was people acted like he was like what Wemby is going to be, you know, or like what like I remember when the lottery happened, the draft lottery, how pumped the Pelicans were when they got the number 1 pick.
Yep, I remember that.
And man, did Memphis luck out of that.
I remember the room, like they showed the video of the room.
The GM this, like raised his hands and I remember, like, I mean, he couldn't win anything at Duke, and they had the top 3 recruits who went there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a bust. You just can't stay healthy, and people's expectation of him, I think he's more of just like a fun player to watch instead of like a great player. I'm trying to think what else is going on. I mean, the in-season tournament thing, sure.
Yeah, Dallas and San Antonio not starting off as good, probably as many thought they would.
No one thought San Antonio was going to do anything this year, though.
Yeah, but you still, like, we talked a little bit about last week, like, and I know you need more than one star player, but I
mean, 6-8 for San Antonio is actually pretty solid.
What about Dallas?
Dallas 7-7. I mean, they're about to be 8-7. They're destroying the Pelicans right now, but that's fine. It's so early. I mean, Denver's 7-5. Phoenix is 9-6, but they don't have Durant. The thing is, like, the regular season matters, but the good, it will start separating itself. It's like the NFL. You'll see it start separating itself come Christmas.
Yep.
No, we'll know who's in, who's not.
I always felt the NBA, at least for me, started at Christmas. Like, I felt like that was always the real, like, and I know it's 2 months into the season, but at least for me as a NBA fan, that's when I really would start paying more attention to it. I don't know if it's just because games were on Christmas and that's where I was like, all right, we're watching it. Now I get back into it. But I just always felt like, or maybe it was the year where it was shortened and they actually started on Christmas. I don't know. But it just always felt like NBA that's when you really people started paying more attention. Was
100%. Well, yeah. I mean, that's why they wanted to get this in-season tournament thing going,
build some buzz.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like right now I've been watching games and it's kind of cool seeing, you know, every team's playing like a 10-person long bench. You know, they're playing all their guys, and then as the season goes on, they're going to shrink it down to 9, then to 8, and see if. Oh my god. And see if they have, like, you know, their guys for the playoffs, and which is usually they don't go past like 8 guys.
Right.
You know, so
yeah,
it is kind of cool. I'm looking at all the records right now. I just don't. The Sixers and the Bucks thing is wild to me because before the season I would have said it would be Boston, Sixers, Bucks, top 3, but it's Cavs, Celtics, Magic.
Nuts. Well, you were kind of on the Magic though, weren't you? A little bit at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I said that they had a chance to do something, but I mean, I didn't think the Cavs were going to be 15-1 to start.
I don't think anyone thought
but the Cavs are good though. Like they have a really good team. And it's like a very, very young team, and yeah, but yeah. So we'll see as the weeks go on. But follow us at AthletePod on Twitter, at Traveling Athlete Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and we will be back next week.
Yep.
All right, Brian.
Feel better, Mike.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll talk.